Hello and welcome to I Talk to Ghosts. I'm your spirited host, Jennifer, a professional medium and a collector of ghost stories. Thank you for being here tonight with me as this is the 40th episode of the podcast. How wonderful is that? And by now you know that I love to share a chilling theme or two when it comes to ghost stories. Shadow people, haunted workplaces, creepy imaginary friends. Tonight's theme? Well, I'm just going to share some of the creepier, spookier stories that I have found. Let's just be scary. And as always, after exploring the spooky, there's time for the spiritual too. I have a fascinating spirit reading to share with you with my latest podcast guest. Then join me for a mini-séance as I create the space to call a spirit close. Who will come forward? Well, since you're attending, the spirit may be here for you. Find out if the message from the spirits is specifically for you tonight. That's later on in the podcast. But first, the terrifying. The ghosts are closing in right now. There was an old house I used to live in that most people said was haunted. I was about 4 when we moved in, and I remember a neighborhood boy, about 5 years older than me, came over the day we were moving in. His parents just wanted to welcome us to the neighborhood, but he came along because he heard our house was possessed. He decided he wanted to scare me since I hadn't heard anything about our new house. He told me all kinds of terrible, frightening stories about our new home. I told my mother about it the very same day. She told me that none of it was true, that I didn't need to worry. Although for real, she was scared because she did believe in ghosts. But she never told me that. There would be kids in my Sunday school class that my mom said I could invite over for a slumber party, but they all knew my house was haunted, so they always said no. I distinctly remember my 5th birthday. We had a family party at our house. My older cousin, who was about 6 years old, kept crying on my aunt's lap. He didn't want to be there. Later that day, we were playing outside on the swings when he looked up at the roof of our house and started screaming. Everyone ran outside to see what was the matter. At that instant, I looked up and I saw a large, red, hooded figure on the top of our roof. I ran towards my mother and I told her what we saw. When she looked, though, it had vanished into our chimney. My father went inside, thinking it was a burglar, as we stayed outside and waited for him to return. He came out saying that nothing was there. Our uncle went in and decided he would inspect the inside of the chimney just to be sure. When he stuck his head up inside it from our fireplace, he looked up and yelled. He pulled his head out and said he cut his cheek on something he felt fall from the top of the fireplace onto his face. We looked into the fireplace and saw nothing on the floor that could have cut him. Guessing that someone must be stuck in our chimney trying to rob us, everyone freaked out and my grandfather called the police. The police came and shone flashlights into the chimney. It was so dark in there, they couldn't even see the opening at the top. They searched the place and even went to the top of the roof to see if anyone was there, but there was nothing. Another time, I was getting ready for my first day of kindergarten when I remembered that my new backpack that my mother had bought me was in the living room. I walked down there to find my backpack hung on the rail by the fireplace. My mother said she had put it on the sofa, not the rail, so I was really nervous. I still remember what happened on my birthday, so I went up to it very cautiously. I took it down and put it on my back and ran back up the stairs. When I got to my room, I opened my bag to put my storybooks in it, when I found inside a sharp rock wrapped up in wrapping paper from one of my birthday presents that year. Being 5 years old, I didn't know what to think. Now that I'm older, I think the sharp rock was the one that hit my uncle in the face from inside the chimney. I didn't tell anyone about it. I decided to tell my best friend at school about it a week later. She thought I was just making up stuff because ever since the birthday thing, everyone started accusing me of making up stories. I eventually told my sister, who told my brother, who told my mom. My mother freaked out, and she asked me where I found the wrapped up rock. I told her in my backpack. She told me to tell her every little detail about it. I didn't know really what was going on, so I simply replied that I found it by the fireplace. My mom called my father, who doesn't believe in the paranormal one bit, but she was hysterical. My mom didn't like the thought of being home alone in a haunted house, so she ended up going to her sister's house for the afternoon, and my dad took me to the park. After about an hour of being at the park, my father got a phone call from a neighbor saying that they thought they saw someone up on our roof. He piled us into the car and drove us over to our aunt's house, and then he went down to our house. He said that he didn't see anything, but years later, he admitted to us that he saw a red, hooded figure inside the house. Instead of calling the police on what he had seen, he told himself that he was just imagining things. And so just to be safe, he went to the shed to grab a bat and went inside. He never found anything. He came back and picked us all up and randomly decided to go on an immediate family vacation. He told us we didn't need to pack our bags, that we would buy new clothes wherever we were going. So we went to the beach and stayed at a hotel for about 2 weeks. Looking back on it, I realized he did that just in case there was somebody in our house. Now that he's older, he believes in ghosts. Years later, my older sister started believing. When she was 13 years old, she was doing stretches in the living room near the fireplace with her friend, getting ready for a big dance competition. She got up to get her and her friend a drink. When they came back, she was holding the 2 drinks in her hands. When she walked by the fireplace, she gasped and fell back and dropped the drinks on the floor. I was about 8 years old at the time. I ran down the stairs and asked what happened. She told us that while she was walking past the fireplace, she felt someone or something grip and pull her ponytail so violently that she fell backwards. We all freaked out, so we ran to the kitchen, not bothering to clean up the mess. My brother also had a couple of friends over one day when it was just them and me. They were playing video games in his bedroom. I was about 12 years old at this time and over the whole ghost thing, so I had the courage to read a book in the living room alone. I started hearing a knocking sound. At first, I thought it was my brother and his friends upstairs, so I ignored it. A few minutes later, I started hearing it again. I yelled up to them to be quiet. No one answered, so I went on about reading my book. Then I heard it again, so I put my book down on the fireplace mantel and went upstairs to yell at my brother and his friends to stop banging things around. When I found them, they hadn't been doing anything of the sort. They said they had stopped playing video games and started studying for a big test they all had the next day. So all they had been doing was reading books for the past hour. I don't know what to think. When I think back about all the crazy things that had been happening, and I realized it must be the ghost. I didn't tell his friends though, because I didn't want people to stop coming over to our house for being too scared again. So I casually walked down the stairs to find my book had been moved from the fireplace mantel to the floor. No one could have moved it. I had been the only other person home in the house. In 1986, I was a freshman in college. I lived on the 4th floor of the dorm. It was a co-ed floor and the rooms were alternated. My roommate Cynthia and I were hanging around that night with some of the guys on our floor. Another girl came in and said that someone down the hall had a Ouija board and was getting ready to play it. We figured, what the heck, since we had nothing else to do, so we went down there. The room it was set up in was occupied by a goth girl. I had heard rumors that she claimed to be a witch. The room was adorned with black candles, black sheets over the windows, and white string lights that zigzagged across the ceiling. When a big enough crowd gathered, about 10 of us in a small room, the lights were turned off. The goth girl and a guy began asking the board questions. It contacted an old man who said that he had died in a farming accident. That made sense since we were surrounded by cornfields that went on forever. He seemed harmless enough, and they continued to play with the board. I had left a message on my dry erase board on my door, saying where I was, and it wasn't long before the guys that lived to the right of me came knocking on the door. Scott and John stood in the doorway for a few minutes, all the while making comments under their breath about how silly the whole thing was. The goth girl began to get upset and said if they didn't believe in the Ouija, they had to go so that they wouldn't upset the spirit. Scott just laughed and said, "If you're real, then give us a sign." The phone rang. The goth girl picked it up and said nobody was on the line. She hung it up, and a few seconds later, it rang again. This time, Scott grabbed it. Still, nobody there. He hung it up. Again, it rang. He picked it up and began to shout into the phone at whoever it was on the other line. The phone continued to ring in his hand. I have never seen so many people move so fast in their life. Cynthia, Scott, John, myself, and 2 others ran to my room and shut the door. The phone rang. I refused to answer it. John picked it up, and no one was there. We ran next door into their room, unplugged the phone, and didn't fall asleep until after 6 a.m. That was the first time and the last time I was involved with a Ouija board. One day, me and my brothers were home alone. I was in my shared room with my younger one. My older brother was on the couch watching TV. The house was set up so that from the living room, you could see down the hall to the back door. My brother looked up from the couch, and he said he saw an animal. It looked like a goat, standing on its hind legs at the very dark end of the hallway. He looked twice and then went down there to investigate. But there was nothing there. As he traveled the hallway, he had to pass my room, so he came in and asked us to listen. We heard whispering. We wanted to believe it came from outside the window, but there was nobody outside, and we weren't hearing it from there either. We looked everywhere and realized the whispering was coming from the floor. There was talking. It sounded like we were just out of range for picking up the actual words, but we could make out a few. This was a 1-story house, and under that floor was a foot of empty space and dirt. After a couple of minutes, while debating what to do, it went away. After that, we often heard noises in my brother's room. We'd be sitting in there when the walls would make noises as if something was walking on them. Sometimes it sounded like dirt was falling down inside them too. But he'd tap twice and it would stop. These walls were empty. Just studs and drywall. Are you enjoying your ghostly visit? If so, please follow, like, comment, and share. The ghosts may be talkative, but they are lousy at marketing, so every click helps. Tell your friends, and please leave a kind review so that others might join us. The spirits and I thank you. Welcome back to I Talk to Ghosts. My guest for the podcast this evening is Alison. Alison, welcome to your spirit reading. How are you doing today?
I'm good, thank you. How are you?
I'm doing wonderful. Thank you so much for asking. So, diving into this, I usually take some notes.
Okay.
That I'm also trying to work past that and kind of flow with things as well. For you, I'm picking up a couple different energies. I'm wondering, one that's coming in is male, seems kind of protective of you, bit of like wants to be a shield for you almost. Does that make sense?
Yeah, that can make sense.
Okay. Can you, it's not revealing anything for you to tell me who this is so I can expand on that. So
Okay.
who do you connect this with?
I recently lost my father.
Okay. Okay.
2 months ago, so sorry.
Okay. No, he's coming in. Okay. For me to just pick up on that right away. And this feeling of he really wants to hold you. He really wants to hug you. Okay. And did you see him as a bit of a protector for you?
Definitely.
He was emotionally available, which is really nice in a dad. Would you agree?
Yep, he was very emotional and sensitive.
Are you on the East Coast?
Yes. Yep.
Okay. The word nor'easter is coming up a little bit. Were there some big storm memories in your family?
There was definitely a time that I can think of with being trapped in with my dad in New York City in a nor'easter for like a week.
Yeah, I think that's what he's bringing up. This might seem really weird. Is there a joke about feet?
Actually, yes. Now that you mention it. So my dad and I both have, I call them Flintstone feet.
Okay.
They're like these little square with toes that are like this big. And when he died, he was in the hospital for a week and he was unconscious. He was, not with it. And so I kept making jokes about his feet and trying to get him to wake up and kind of taunting him. And
yeah, I think he's saying that he heard you. He definitely heard you. He's bringing up the feet. He's telling me about these jokes. The joke about the feet. Okay. He just has so much love for you. I can feel it. And he just wants to express that more than anything, to give you the opportunity to know that, and then that you're still connected. You are absolutely still connected. There's a lot of friend energy here. Did you really kind of consider him a friend in that aspect of, and he really taught you that to have, live your life, be independent, do your own thing. Who cares what people think, Okay. He showed me a Ferris wheel. Yeah, I don't know if the Ferris wheel means anything to you, but he's also showing me something about fireworks or some kind of explosion. He's showing me like, oh, this story about kind of like the time I almost blew my hand off or something like that.
During that snowstorm, there was a time once when I was a little kid, I got stuck at his house for a week. I was visiting in New York, and the pilot light wouldn't light, and he went to light it with like a match, and it like blew back, and he singed all his arm hair off, and he was like, whoa. Okay. And he came in, ran into the room with me and my friend. He's like, smell my arm. And we were like, no.
Oh my God. I feel like humor was a big deal for him, because I feel like he's just here to kind of make you laugh a bit. One of the first symbols that I saw a star. Does a star have any kind of significance to you, or is that something I can elaborate on?
My dad was Jewish, and so it could be the Star of David.
Yeah, definitely. It was just coming through as like straightforward. Okay. I was going to ask if you lost someone kind of dramatically. I don't know if this would be your dad or someone else.
Yeah, my dad was a pretty dramatic loss. He, at 76 years old, he overdosed.
Okay. Yeah, it seemed like that it was like a sudden, very dramatic and he wants to acknowledge that he put you through that, and he's really sorry about how that happened, and he just loves you so much, and he's sorry that you experienced that in that way. Okay. Do you find yourself in a stage of a reset or a restart? I'm getting a lot of encouragement for just this breath of fresh air and restarting over.
Yeah.
And he wants to encourage that in you.
I've struggled with my weight always, and I've been struggling to kind of get back on the healthy taking care of myself and really thinking about it from a big philosophical place. So I think that makes sense.
He's like, gosh, let it radiate from within and spill it outwards. So the focus starts on the inside, and then, it goes outwards. But instead, I think a lot of times we're always doing this. It's like, what can we grab? What can we grab for our happiness? And then after a while, we're like, why isn't this fulfilling? Why isn't this fulfilling? It's just about grounding and centering and being our own compass when we do things. Right. Does that make sense?
It does.
Okay. Did anyone in your family play piano? I'm hearing piano music.
My brother plays. Just extraordinarily gifted. He pretended to read music, but really plays everything by ear and can hear something once and play it.
Does he share the same father with you?
No.
Your brother's connected to you. You're connected to your dad. I think he's just acknowledging that, encourage him, yeah. As you encourage yourself. Yeah. There's compliments there about the piano, and he is really talented. And yeah, there's just an acknowledgement of that. Okay. One other thing that was coming up for me. Did your dad ever take you to the zoo when you were little? And this is me being in danger of translating, but I'm seeing a giraffe, and this giraffe kind of in your face, and you kind of being like, does that make sense?
He used to take us to the drive-through safari in New Jersey. He would take me and my best friend, and we would feed the animals out of the sunroof, even though we weren't supposed to. And he never cared about rules. So, we'd go through McDonald's and get a bunch of French fries to feed them to the monkeys and stuff. So
the monkeys probably loved you.
Oh, yeah, they loved us. I don't know that Six Flags Great Adventure loved us, but...
But did the animals ever come in? Because I'm seeing them really get in your face.
Yep, they would stick their heads through the windows and the sunroof, and because we were feeding them.
Right. You had the good stuff. You had French fries. Oh my goodness. Okay, one other thing. I have some messages for you, and from your dad of just encouragement and going forward. He says, keep learning and growing. Okay. He sees you manifesting something, like creating your life. All right. Have you thought about, there seems to be this theme of divine wisdom and divine guidance, and maybe even a thread of education. Have you thought about going to school or learning more about something?
I am probably overeducated at this point. I have a Juris Doctorate and an MBA, so I don't know that I'll be going back to school. I think I already have 12 years of college under my belt, but...
Okay. Well, maybe let's flip this. Maybe this is you finally deciding that do you realize you're probably in this mentor type space? You're no longer the student. You're now the teacher.
Probably, yeah.
And I think there's just that wisdom, this flow of wisdom coming in, and that to encourage you that, oh my gosh, never hold yourself back. And he just thinks you're amazing. He thinks you're absolutely amazing. So is that something that resonates for you?
Yeah, I think it probably has to do with my career, because we always talked a lot about it. And I've gotten to a point of upper management pretty quickly in my line of work, but my dad always wanted more for me and thought, like, you can be the CEO. You can. So that makes sense.
Yeah, I think he still can. He's still encouraging you to do that reach, right? That, oh my gosh, he just believes in you so much, and that I don't know if you could ever move past your potential. Like your potential, that line always keeps moving, and he will. It's infinite to him, and it should be infinite to you too. So really, just connect with what it is you want and what moves you, and then just make it happen. Just believe it. It's already there. You just got to catch up to it, So yeah, he just wants to encourage you in that way. Okay.
Okay.
Well, thank you so much for meeting with me today. This has been a real treat, and your dad seems like an amazing guy.
Thank you. I appreciate your time.
Would you like to receive a free spirit reading with me? Enter for your chance at italktoghosts.com/guest. Each week, I'll randomly select a name from the list to be a guest on the show. Together, we will talk to the spirits who wish to communicate with you, and our session will be featured on a future episode of I Talk to Ghosts. The spirits are waiting. Enter now at italktoghosts.com/guest. Hello and welcome back to I Talk to Ghosts. I have a message from the spirits this evening for someone listening to the podcast. I thought for tonight's mini-séance session, I would implement my pendulum kind of as a focal point and as a tool for a spirit to be allowed to signal to me that they are close. Normally when a spirit is close to me, the pendulum starts twirling in a circle, and that's when I can feel the energy is right. So tonight's spirit is a grandfather, definite grandfather, fatherly vibes. He is showing me that he had a lot of energy in life, and he loved to play jokes and pranks on people. Nothing nasty or malicious. He just really loved to catch you off guard and maybe even have something out of place, or be wearing his tie silly, or things like that, where you're talking and you turn and then you turn back and suddenly there's something out of place, and it's hilarious. And he would laugh so hard, and that would make you laugh even more. And he just has really great energy, and I'm really, really honored to be sharing this tonight. He was a wonderful man, and his passing was sudden and very startling to the family, and he is sorry for that. But he wants you to know that his personality and his consciousness still lives on, and I would not be surprised if every once in a while something silly happened in your life and it reminds you of him, and you wonder if it was him. I think you can trust that it was, because he is still as vibrant as ever, and his message is that he loves you and he's proud of you, and he sees you doing all the right things. He really does. The choices you make in life, he's just incredibly proud. If you ever feel like you really miss his guidance, take a quiet moment, clear your mind, so that he can subtly come in and give you that advice, because he is still here for you. And don't mistake it as your imagination. When it comes out of nowhere and it's just kind of divine inspiration, it is. It absolutely is. I think I'm going to leave it at that. I'm going to close out this session, say goodbye, and I'm very, very thankful for this time. If you find that this message connects for you, I would love to know, so please reach out. Also, as a listener, let me know if you like these new details about the process with my pendulum or other tools that I might bring in future sessions. Thank you. Book a medium reading with me. If you have a past loved one you would like to connect with, a spirit reading can be an amazing and never spooky experience. I strive to give you specific details that align only to you and your loved ones. Curious? Visit italktoghosts.com for links to book with me. I can't wait to meet you. And with that, dear listener, we've reached the end of this episode of I Talk to Ghosts. I hope you've enjoyed these extra spooky ghost stories I've shared with you this evening. Let me know which one was your favorite, and if you have a ghost story you'd like to share with me, I would love to hear it. In the meantime, wherever you wander off to, in this world or the next, just remember, come back and visit with me. Have a lovely evening and good night.